Hey everyone, how you going? It's Margit here. I'm coming to you tonight to be able to bring you one of the lessons that I'm creating in my spiritual development course online. And I've had many requests over the years from students to be able to bring this online because many of my students are overseas, living internationally. I'm here in Western Australia in Perth, and many students are also on the eastern seaboard or in the eastern states or just hours away and can't get to me. So, tonight's little introduction is what triggers the spiritual awakening process, which I thought would be a great little starter to this series because awakening process, which I thought would be a great little starter to this series because a lot of you will probably not be really too sure about how your curiosity began or even how you became interested. What are those triggers that happen in life that start? All of you that have sent me private messages, so thank you very much for that as well. And a big shout out to all of you that did send me messages prior to this live session together. Whatever key hints or tips or notes or anything that I give you tonight that's going to help an extended lesson, and I will put all the details below in this in the description box after we finish this live event. And then that way you can actually go across to the website. It's the Patreon website, and be able to watch this and watch the lessons in your own leisure. And that's what's so fantastic about being able to do this on YouTube, is that it's going to be here on YouTube for a very long time, and you can come back and watch it over and over again. And for me to say that they're going to be watching it later on because they couldn't make it live here with me today. But for you guys that are here on tonight, that are going to be joining me, and as you come in and as you go again, let's just take a moment to talk about what is the spiritual awakening process. And it's really interesting because years and years and years ago, and I'm talking almost 20, 30, 40 years ago, when we talked about spirituality, we were talking about the heavens. We were talking about our family and our friends that had passed over and had passed on. And we were talking about, that spiritual realm and where they went to and where they go to and where they dwell. And so now it's actually become more and more aware that the spiritual awakening process is more existence within inside of your humanness. So you're a spiritual being having an earthly existence, as the saying goes. And the spiritual awakening process can start at a really early age for some of you, and some of you can actually start later on in life. And it doesn't really matter when it starts for you. The most important thing is that when you get that urge of curiosity, intrigue, you're wanting to know more, you're wanting to, is this spiritual realm? What is this spiritual awakening? So hi, how you going, Lulu? So it doesn't matter how your spiritual curiosity starts. It doesn't matter how your spiritual curiosity starts. The most important thing is that you start researching. Many years ago, 20, 30 years ago, I started by a suggestion. My sister suggested that I go along to what she thought was a meditation class. And she said to me, "You'll really enjoy it. It'll be something that you love to do." And when I got there, it wasn't just a meditation class, it was spiritual and psychic development. And I felt like I had found my place. I'd always felt like the square peg trying to fit into the round hole. In high school, I always felt like my family never really got me. Very few people actually ever got me, that I was always judged and always critiqued, and lots of criticism, and people telling me what I should be and what I should say and what I should do. And I just knew all along that there wasn't an area that I could quite fit into. So the triggers for your spiritual unfoldment can be that awkwardness. So if you've ever felt like you have felt that you're awkward or self-conscious, whether that be at school, whether it be in your family, whether it be growing up. It's not so much about the people around you or the places around you that are mirroring to you this feeling that you don't quite fit in. It's really about going inside and saying to yourself, I'm needing to find that peace of mind within myself. And so by going along to my sister's suggestion to go to meditation classes, I found that there's a spiritual and psychic development class that's exactly where I found my peace of mind. And spirit will bring that to you. So please, I'm actually suggesting to you that you put that up there to the universe and you say to your spirit guides and to spirit, please show me and awakening process is a crisis event. And there's a beautiful little saying that's one of my most favorite sayings in the world. And it says, a crisis event often explodes the illusions that anchor our lives. And that actually is actually saying that when a crisis event happens in your life, and a crisis event can actually be father. So it can be a death of a parent or a loved one, or the death of a pet. It can also be a shift and a change in the way that you're growing up in your home life and your family life. It can be the loss. It doesn't have to be the death, but the loss of someone that's really close to you. It can be ill health. It can be hospitalization. It can be some sort of severe medical condition. It can also be a debilitating physical thing that can happen to you, or it can also come from trauma, come from shock. So it's a crisis event. It's also a bit like panic attacks. Even, for example, another case is postnatal depression or any of those types of diseases, the Ross River viruses, the Lyme's disease, all those things that you are in a crisis in some way within your physical, spiritual, mental, and emotional bodies. And so what happens is during that crisis event is that you can fracture off from yourself. So you'll have your emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual. And your spiritual is always the heartbeat. It's deep down inside of you, the spiritual light, the entity, the authenticity of who you are is always deep, deep, deep within your soul, just like that regular heartbeat that's always there. But you lose connection to that when you have a crisis event. When you have a crisis event, the human part of you fractures off to try and solve. So the mind runs away with itself. It will overanalyze. It will try to find solutions. And then, of course, you've got your emotional self, and your emotions are running riot, and everything is in this panic and flight or fight and survival mode. So a crisis event that can to let you know all the stories, that of the thriller and the horror movies, which isn't what spirit is all about as well. But your spiritual awakening can come from a gift kicking in. It's almost like someone's turned the on switch and turned that up high. And also understand too that your spiritual awakening can just happen from like I said at the very beginning, your curiosity of having 100 questions, and why is this, and why did that happen, and what happens when spirit passes over, and why do I see this and I don't hear that, and why do I hear this and I don't see that, and why do I feel calm and confident in some situations and I feel really nervous and self-conscious in other situations? Why do I connect with some people really quickly, and why do I not connect with other people at all? What makes me aligned to something or drawn to something or pulled towards something, and then I'm not drawn or pulled to something else? So these are all the triggers and the main triggers to your spiritual awakening. Now, one of the things that you can now do is to be able to jump online and be able to read and look up and research any YouTube videos. You'll get articles. You'll be able to, be able to log on to Facebook pages and Instagram and all sorts of those social platforms to be able to learn. So you need to understand that some of those triggers that are inside of you for your spiritual awakening are also triggers that you need to be able to understand. Is it coming from your feelings? Is it coming from your thoughts? Is it coming from your heart, as in you're sensing it, you're drawn to it? Or is it coming from a sensation that's coming through your body? And then you'll be able to discern when you're doing your research what it is that you're interested in. Some of those triggers can be because you're wanting answers. And lots of students will come to me and say they want answers to their questions. And the answers are, why did this happen? Why did, my father or my mother, die at such a young age? Or, you know, um, why did my relationship, fail and break up? Everything that is external to you. And the triggers that happen, it doesn't matter what sort of triggers they are, whether they're emotional, mental, or physical triggers, but it's always in the right timing and the right place, even though you might dislike what's happening, even though you might really, really dislike the timing. You might even say to, look up to the skies and say to Spirit, this sucks because I could do, with having a peaceful life right now and not having this happen in my life. But all the triggers that happen in your spiritual awakening process, and something that's as simple yet powerful as a relationship breakup, can trigger you to return to you, can trigger you to be awakened, to wake up to you. Who are you? What makes you you? What is your makeup? What are the synchronicities inside of you that you're needing to learn? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your characteristics that you need to work with? And learning lessons. This spiritual awakening is not just about being able to work with spirit, because spirit's around you working the whole time. But imagine that if spirit is there and they're trying to work with you and you're full of fear, it would be extremely difficult for them to know that you're going to listen and pay attention to intuition. But a trigger may happen in your life so that you start to learn how to cope with fear or overcome fear. So fear is no longer ruling you or leading you or guiding you, and instead you're keeping control and keeping fear at bay. And then your spiritual awakening. Because remember that spiritual awakening is all about peace. It's about calm. It's about being centered. It's about knowing that all is well. And when you're in that space of being calm and centered and aligned and knowing that all is well, then you'll also have the capabilities to handle whatever is coming into your life. Whatever you need to handle, you can cope with at the time. Now, lots of students have always said to me over the years, well, Margaret, if you teach me or tell me what's coming to me in the future, then I'll be able to handle that. But Spirit doesn't teach like that. Spirit teaches that you need to walk the walk and know that when you come to that place, when you've got to cross that bridge in your life, that it's then that you'll know how to deal with that. So your spiritual awakening process is the process. It is a step by step, day by day, week by week, month by month process. And as much as I've been teaching, coming up 29 years now, I too am still learning every day from Spirit. There's still little parts of me that are falling away that I built up over years ago. And every little thing that happens to me, it's like, oh, I needed to lose that. My spiritual awakening is taking me to a higher level of awareness, of consciousness, of wisdom, of being able to go to a place where it's all seeing and it's all knowing. But I can't get there if I'm bogged down and heavy with all of these walls of fear and worry and doubt. So your spiritual awakening is important because you've been asking the universe for these answers and for these solutions. One of the other triggers, and a really, really powerful trigger in your life, can be loneliness. And even if you know someone who may be isolated or alone or lonely, and you know that there's a difference between being lonely and being alone, but someone who is alone and doesn't have the social capabilities to be able to reach out and connect and make friends or find a tribe or find their group, that type of trigger can either bring them to a place where they're forced to find themselves, or they will be forced to just go deep and they'll sink deeper and deeper and deeper into solitude. One of the other spiritual awakening processes that will happen is when you have a family, you have your own family, or you've got, dependents, whether that be human dependents or pets. When you have something else that you need to caretake for, something else that you need to care for and love and nurture and think of before yourself, that can be a trigger to your spiritual awakening, because you need to be in a place where you yourself are calm, because you all know that if you are in a fractured place and you're in anxiety and your energy is spinning and you're not in a calm place, that just goes down the path. So it's, that old thing of starts at the top and it keeps on going down until the last person or the last animal or whatever it is. And so that carries on and carries on and carries on. So a trigger for spiritual awakening can just be learning to be quiet and peaceful in a very busy environment. Another trigger that is also really powerful is when you're in a toxic relationship. And it sounds the most weirdest and as if it's like I'm giving you the wrong information, but I can tell you now that learning to be peaceful and calm, no matter what is going on around you, is spiritual unfoldment. It's spiritual awakening and it's spiritual transformation. And it takes a long time and it can take practice, but with daily practice, a person can build themselves up to that level of confidence again to be able to leave the toxic relationship. The other spiritual trigger, or the trigger to a spiritual awakening, is that sense of not feeling as though you've got solid ground under your feet. So whether you're living in your own home or whether you're traveling or whether you haven't yet been able to financially find yourself in a place where you want to be and you feel like, it's temporary accommodation, or you seem to move a lot, or whatever else it is. But that type of trigger also means that you're learning spiritual awakening and spiritual unfoldment of being self-reliant, self-resilience. So for someone who is traveling a lot around the world, there's only one person that they can really, really trust and lean on, and that's themselves. If you know anybody that's in a financial difficulty, and they're finding that their home life is constantly moving and changing and shifting, or they're having to move and change and shift, that's a trigger to spiritual unfoldment. And in many ways, that ability to be able to balance themselves or try to keep themselves balanced when life around them is not balanced. Some people do very well at it, and some people still struggle with that. But it is a trigger to spiritual unfoldment. And then, of course, we come to the end of the session. I just want to wrap this up and just say that I'm definitely going to be putting an extended version to this lesson, and also be able to give you some more hints and tips that might assist you. And I'll do it by trigger as I've discussed tonight. But the next trigger, which is the most powerful trigger of all for all of us, is love. And when love radiates out from you in a true unconditional sense, you become super vulnerable. And it's within that vulnerability that the trigger to spiritual awakening and unfoldment really kicks in. And it can be hard going for some. And I've got students and clients that will come to me that are in new relationships and they're finding it hard going. And not because things aren't good between the two people, but because they're growing at such a rapid rate because they're falling in love. And there's always been a saying that love quickens the spirit. And love quickens the spirit because it's love is breaking down the walls of the human self. And so as love opens up, the window and opens up the gate and opens up the floodgates to allow love in and to allow love to come out, the spirit can rise. Okay, and that feeling and that sensation of overwhelming. I feel overwhelmed. I feel like this is going too fast. I feel like this, is running its own race and I can't keep up with it. And that sort of stuff, that's an amazing trigger for spiritual unfoldment, spiritual alignment. But also too, so is the love that you have for someone in your family or a friend that is passed over. And also being able to want to feel the love from your family members in spirit. And that's why students come to class. And so as I start to teach class by class, lesson by lesson, I'm going to start to put all of these online for you to be able to just open up and watch and listen at any time, night or day, whenever you are ready. And I will be able to teach you how to feel your loved ones around you, how to hear them, how to see them, and how to know their presence and their reassurance and to receive messages from them. And that trigger in itself means that you have to go to a place inside of you where you're unfolding and you're in your own spiritual alignment. You can't be as hard as a rock and be able to have your loved ones in spirit come and give you a message because it's just too hard to get through. It's like trying to get through quartz granite. So teaching you how to be able to unfold this comes from a place of love. And last but not least, and the most powerful of the loves, is self love. Because the love that you have for yourself is your self esteem, syncrasies, and my anger and my frustrations and the way I critique people and the way I block people and I don't let people come in. But all of that self love is a trigger to your spiritual awakening and your spiritual alignment. And so what spirit's doing is it's mirroring to you in a way that says, and how do I love myself? How great do I love myself? Do I critique myself? Do I not look in the mirror when I'm in front of the mirror? Do I not appreciate myself? Or do I not have gratitude for myself? All of that is massive, massive triggers for your spiritual awakening and unfoldment. So thank you for joining me today. If you have any questions, please send them to me via my Facebook page and I'd be happy to answer them. And I'm going to let you know when I do the next live session and the next video session. And like I said, I'll put the link to the extended lesson in the description in this video. And if I can leave you with one message that today is that Spirit is with you always and they love you and they guide you and they protect you.